Good morning. We're at the opening day of the 49th Annual World Dairy Expo, and in a few short minutes we're going to have a press conference, and Gary can hold up the book, We Need a Show. This is going to be the history of World Dairy Expo. It's 212 pages, 4-color book. We've been working on this for 3 years and 3 months. It's been a great journey. Co-editor Steve Larson and I call this a labor of love. We chronicled the starting of the show that dates back to the early 1960s when the grand dairy show at the time was at the National Dairy Cattle Congress in Waterloo, Iowa. And that show began to change at that point, and Holstein breeder, dedicated person in the industry, Alan Hetts, started telling people we need a show. That's where we came up with the title. And we're so honored today to have members of his family and Gary Magnussen, Norm Magnussen Sr. Before you can have a show, you need a little dough. You need a little money to go with it. And Gary's father organized not only the very first sale that started what became World Dairy Expo, they also had a sale because they had a few bumps in the road and need a little more cash flow. So we want to talk just briefly about that today. And Roy, what do you remember about your dad and his efforts early on to really get the ball rolling, and most importantly, to keep people together to get get this show started?
Dad, his favorite activity was showing cattle. He loved showing cattle, and he went to Waterloo every year, Waterloo, Iowa. And towards the later years, in the mid-'60s, he became aware that the show was going to cease to exist at a national level. And from that point on, he and several of his friends thought that Madison would be the perfect place for it, and started the organizing that at that time.
And Roy and Gary, you guys were young men at that time, obviously, because to be a mover and shaker to get this going, that was 49 years ago and then some. But we needed a sale to go with that, and your dad helped organize that. And then there was the reboot, where they also came up and mortgaged their farms to help keep this going, and now it's off and running. What do you recall from those days, Gary?
Yeah, it was a great experience, and I can remember at the Wisconsin State Fair, his dad and my dad visiting about it, and it's got to come to Wisconsin, and it did. And I can remember, and I told you about this too, about flying the calf in from Oregon and taking it off the plane, and then trucking it around to all the events that we could think of in a snowmobile trailer. And it was a great start. It was, and I'm so thankful that people were willing to put the effort out, like your Reynolds and your people in Madison here, that got behind it, or take the ranks and made it go. And there was some tough years in there, some really tough ones, but it survived. Like everything else, you start out kind of slow, and it sure grew.
And what Gary's referring to there is incredible. The people that they got together, that these families got together, two others that we want to mention, Gene Nelson and Howard Vagley, were instrumental too. But it really quickly, we got a lot of people together to start this show. That included the University of Wisconsin College of Agriculture, Dean Glenn Pound. They dedicated so many of their science staff. Wilbur Rank actually became... he was at the Bank of Sun Prairie. They were instrumental in loans. The state of Wisconsin stepped forward. There were so many, and Reynolds was the mayor of Madison, happened to own a trucking company. They were really the first people that coordinated that trade show and actually moved in exhibits for free. It was just an incredible group of people that focused on we need a show, and so many of these did it as volunteers, and that's been the thing that's made World Dairy Expo go over the years. And Doris, I know one of the things, you had to stay at the farm. Somebody had to run the farm. But this show became international so quick. And one of the fun stories that we put together for the book was that you were working with, and you wrote all the executive secretaries of Holstein associations around the world. And I know you contacted the Japanese one and the Mexican one. And talk about writing those letters.
Well, it was... they were all separate, and there was a lot. I didn't realize there was going to be so many, but they all came from Europe, of course, originally, and Japan, had some too, but it was different for them too.
So if you're down in the Coliseum on the colored shavings, and the colored shavings didn't come about till 1984, but you see these international awards, odds are that Doris contacted him first. And it's so cool today. And I remember your short comment, why did you do it when we were sitting at your kitchen table? Because someone had to. And that's really summed things up. So we're going to start our press conference here in about 20 minutes, but we're so glad to get together early here and talk about this. We Need a Show. It sells for $25. It was 36 authors that came together. They did it all as a labor of love, and by that I mean as volunteers. So the book and the proceeds go to World Dairy Expo, which is a nonprofit, and we're so happy to start the 49th show. This book, We Need a Show, that Gary's holding, will be the kickoff to the year leading up to the 50th. So again, I'm Corey Geiger, co-editor of We Need a Show, and with the Hetts and Magnussen family. Thank you.